Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Welcome to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host. And for this episode, I wanted to talk about embracing change. Change is, for me, one of the most important things to acknowledge, to talk about, and to understand. One of the things with change is that change is constant. Everything changes all of the time, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, whether we want to do something or not, whether we try to remain in the same place or not, everything changes. The only thing that doesn't change in the universe is that things change. We can talk about it from a scientific perspective. This has already been proven. There's change in all of the molecules and all of the different energies that are in the world. Everything changes. Now, how do we embrace change? I'm going through a few things now in my life where there's been a sudden change, and there's nothing that I can do about it. So how can I be with it? How can I embrace that there is change? Fortunately, as I've been talking with some of my clients, and they said, well, luckily you have the tools to navigate through them. And I'm like, yes, I have the tools. I can be with things when they change. And I can understand that things change and things are out of my control. So that then I can allow myself to be with what is taking place. And a lot of times we resist change. I know that in the past I used to resist it much more. And that doesn't mean that it's always comfortable, it's always what we were looking for, it's always what we want when things change. We can be really intentional with change, and also things happen. So how can we be with it? How can we embrace it? Because change is inevitable. Now, our behavior with it, our learning, our growth, that is up to us. We need to take responsibility because that's an option. We can choose to learn, we can choose to embrace it, or we can choose to resist it. And one of the things that happen with that is that when we resist change, a lot of things in our life start to not go in the right direction. Perhaps we start to create some blockages in our system, in our body. Things start to manifest in the physical body because we are resisting something that is changing. The other day I was talking with someone that was mentioning that after a long time working as an employee in an office, in a job that they were okay with, they didn't love, but they didn't hate, she decided to move to a different country and to start working for herself. And that she said that when she went to her workplace and she shared with her coworkers that she was going to leave, one of the women that was there, that have been there for over 30 years, she said to this woman, I'm so proud of you. You're doing something that I haven't been able to do, that I'm not confident enough to do. And she was saying that this woman that said that, she has been working there for 30 years and always complaining, always unhappy. And this isn't about judging that woman, this is about understanding. That's what we do as well. A lot of times we are comfortable even in the places, even in the situations, even in the behaviors that we know that are not good for us. But we're so comfortable there that we prefer to stay in the bad known than in the unknown. And I often share with people when we are not in a position of risk, such as if I take a risk with work or moving somewhere new or with whatever situation like that, that is. Worst case scenario, it didn't work out. I try something different. I call family, friends, and I get supported. I'm not going to end up on the street hungry. Some people will. But for those of us that we are privileged enough not to have that, can we look within and understand what are we afraid of? If we try something and yes, it was worst or it didn't work, then we just go back to the other thing. Can we embrace change? Because there is a potential for things to be better. There's a potential for things to be worst. But we know that what's going on now, it's not working. And even if what is going on now, it's working, perhaps we want to grow, we want to explore, we want to expand, we want something different. When we allow ourselves to embrace the possibilities, the potentials, a new version of ourselves, a new version of our situation, what's going on around, we are flowing and navigating life very differently. Now, it is key to understand how to process feelings, emotions, thoughts, how to be when things start to be a little bit uncomfortable, when we're stepping out of the comfort zone, how to explore the range of experience that we're going to go through. This is where, when we take responsibility and when we understand, okay, change is bound to happen because change is inevitable. Sometimes it's smaller, incremental, sometimes it's sudden, but we know that it's going to happen. How can we prepare ourselves for that? Because if we know that's going to happen, what are we doing to prepare ourselves for that moment? The biggest change that I tell to everyone is death. How are we preparing ourselves for the possibility of dying? Now, that's an extreme, but every single day there's changes. My body is always changing. Even though I might look similar, my body is changing every single moment. And knowing that, then I can choose what do I put into my body, which type of foods I put into my body. When I know the changes that happen all of the time in my mind, because as we now know, the brain changes. The neural pathways are malleable. We can create new neural pathways. Therefore, what am I feeding my mind? Am I watching the news all day? Am I talking to people all the time complaining and negativity? Or am I choosing to feed my mind something that is going to up level my understanding? When we understand that we have resistance to change, then what can we do to be with that? To understand the feelings that come up when we're moving into an unknown, when we're moving into something that we're afraid of. And when we know, we start to find what tools, what methodologies, what exercises are going to support us for that. I have found a lot of different practices that allow me to move through the experiences to be okay when a change happens. So I know that all of the mind-body practices that I have learned with movement, with meditation, with an understanding on energy, all of those tools support me every single day, and especially when there's a big change, especially one that I didn't choose. When things come as a shock and I cannot control them, okay, how can I be with it? How can I feel the feelings that are taking place? How can I move the energy so that it doesn't create a blockage, so that it allows me to be with what is, which is change? So I invite you to see life as an ever-changing, ever-evolving experience. So how are you preparing yourself for that? I would love to know, what's your relationship with change? How are you embracing change? How are you allowing change to take place? Are you seeking it? Are you just passively allowing it? How do you navigate through it? How do you handle it? How do you process it? I would love to know, as always. Leave us a comment, whatever it is that you're finding in this episode. What are you already doing when something changes, especially a big change? What are the tools, the techniques that you use to embrace change? As always, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye!
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using hashtag conscious action and tagging @consciousaction so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.